Good evening, and welcome. Happy Dyslexia Awareness Month. Welcome to the Africa Dyslexia Organization's page and streaming platforms. We are so excited to have you here with us this evening. And this evening, you are joining us to have a conversation around navigating education for your child with dyslexia. The team are with us, and we are so excited to share with you today. So let me first introduce the team. So I am Justina Asafu-Adjaye. I am the inclusion lead for ADO, and I'm also the founder and CEO of JAA Consultancy, which focuses on the areas of special educational needs and inclusion in relation to education. I have 30 years plus experience working with children, young people, and families. I'm a seasoned educator, trainer, lecturer, parent advocate, and a special educational needs specialist. I deliver here in Ghana and also in the UK, respectively. Joining me today is my colleague, Samantha Barrett-Acquah. Samantha is the co-founder and director of the online tutoring company Aspiring Minds Academy and a professional counselor and leadership coach based in Accra, Ghana. She's passionate about fostering resilience and growth in children and adolescents. Samantha has worked with young people aged 7 to 21 most of her working career. Her experience includes working as a senior practitioner for the Youth Offending Service and a business mentoring program manager at a further education college in the UK and a career and guidance counsellor here in Ghana. Also joining me today is my colleague, Barbara Mansua Brew. Barbara is a certified counsellor, academic administrator, and Cambridge exams officer at Alpha Beta Education Centres. With a deep passion for children and adolescents at counselling, she has been working in the school space since September 2010, supporting students, parents, and educators. She has extensive experience and is dedicated to fostering holistic development and creating nurturing environments for young people to thrive. Her expertise in academic administration, combined with her counselling background, uniquely equips her to guide students through both the academic and personal challenges. So, this evening, what are we going to be covering? Well, before we delve into all the areas, let me just tell you a bit about dyslexia. For those of you who are joining us who are not quite sure what dyslexia is, I just want to give you a little summary. So, dyslexia is a learning disorder that affects the brain's ability to process language. So, it's estimated that 1 in 5 people have dyslexia to some degree, making it a very common condition. People with dyslexia may have difficulty with decoding, fluency, and comprehension. Dyslexia is not related to intelligence and can affect people of all ages and backgrounds. Individuals with dyslexia can be highly successful in a variety of fields. And as we go through tonight's conversation, you will get to understand that much, much more. So some of the key characteristics of somebody with dyslexia is difficulty with reading, writing, or processing language, and it can have significant impact on learning and everyday life. So to kickstart us off, I'm going to hand over to Samantha, who's going to talk us through supporting children with dyslexia from a counsellor's perspective.
Great, thank you very much, Justina, and good evening to everyone that is online. So what I want to do is start by looking at some of the different approaches that can be used to support our children with dyslexia. Now, these approaches can be taken by parents in the home, it can be teachers in school, and then if your child is receiving additional support from a counsellor, then they themselves may use some of these approaches. Now, the first one that I want to look at is what we call a person-centered approach. Now, what this does is it focuses on empathy, on understanding, and on unconditional positive regard. And what that is really just accepting people for who they are, regardless of what they say or do. Now, this is particularly effective for children with dyslexia, as it helps to create a safe environment where the child feels accepted despite the academic challenges that they may be facing. Now, we want to emphasize empathy and acceptance in this approach. So how do we do that? We want you as either parents or as teachers to listen to the child without judgment. Now, you want to validate their feelings of frustration or inadequacy. Now, this can help the child to feel understood and valued, and it can also reduce their anxiety that they may be feeling related to the dyslexia. Now, at the core of the person-centered approach is the belief that individuals, including children, are capable of self-directed growth when they feel truly understood and accepted. Now, for children with dyslexia, they may often feel inadequate, frustrated, and empathy and acceptance can really help reduce some of these feelings of anxiety and help to build their self-esteem. So I'll give you an example. So imagine during a meeting with parents and the child, a teacher might focus on the child's effort and progress rather than just their academic performance. So for instance, instead of the teacher saying to you as a parent, oh, your child is struggling with reading, the teacher could say, oh, I see how hard your child is working, and they're making great strides in staying focused, even when reading is difficult. Now, by doing this, they're reframing the conversation, and this helps both the child and the parents focus on strengths. A second example may be creating a safe space for open communication. Now, as a parent or a teacher, you can provide non-judgmental space where the child can express their fears, again, their frustrations. So for example, if the child says to you, oh, I hate reading, I'll never get better. As a parent or a teacher, you might respond with, oh, it sounds like reading has been really tough for you, and that's okay. You're working hard, and I'm proud of you for trying. Now, this type of empathic response will help the child to recognize that, oh, I'm being heard, I'm actually being supported, and will give them that motivation and encouragement to move on. Now, another way to support your child would be through the second approach, is looking at focusing on how to help the child recognize and reframe negative thoughts. So often you'll find a child with dyslexia will struggle with their self-esteem, due to the repeated failures or the difficulties they may have with reading. Now, there are ways in which we can help them develop more constructive thinking. So how do we go about that? Now, what we want to do, first of all, is challenge negative thoughts. Now, as a counselor, you can work with a child to identify some of the harmful thoughts that they may have. So if a child says, oh, I'm stupid, I can't read as fast as others, you as a counselor can help the child replace those negative thoughts with a more positive affirmation. So instead of, I'm stupid, we're going to encourage the child to say, reading is hard for me, but I can get better with practice. We want the child to build constructive thinking and self-esteem. Now, how do we go about that? If they say, I'm bad at reading, let's guide them into saying, I get better or I'm getting better with practice. Again, we're removing this negative thought and moving towards more positive affirmations. So again, a practical example from a teacher's perspective. So if a student says, oh, I can never read without making mistakes, the teacher might respond by saying, okay, I noticed that you worked really hard, or how you worked through those 2 paragraphs today with fewer mistakes than last time. And that's a sign that you're improving. Now, the parent or the counselor can also teach the child to recognize when they're engaging in this negative self-talk. So if we see that our child is using this kind of language, which is very negative, we want to support them and help them to practice rephrasing with some of the examples that I've given into something more encouraging. Secondly, we want to really try and develop or help the child develop coping strategies for any frustrations they may be feeling. So when a child faces reading challenges, they may get agitated or upset about it. Now, the counselor can help the child reframe these frustrations as part of the learning process. So that's a really important thing for them to understand, that this is all part of the learning and not something that defines entirely who they are. So when a child says, oh, I'll never be able to read this, as a counselor, I may say to the child, this is tough, but if you break it down into smaller parts, you'll be able to get through it. And then we want the child to adopt that language. So now the child will now say, instead of I'll never be able to do this, the child is now using this positive language saying, oh, this is tough, but if I break it down into smaller parts, I'll get through it. You can also encourage your child. As a counselor, we may do things like breathing and relaxation techniques. So sometimes when you're frustrated and agitated, you'll see they'll become out of breath, or just their behavior, you'll notice that, okay, what can we do to settle them, to ease some of this anxiety? And adopting breathing techniques is a really good way of doing this. So again, it will help the child to refocus, and now they have that positive mindset to now focus on the work that they're doing. Okay, so something that I think is very important for us to encourage in our children with dyslexia is for them to develop what we call a growth mindset. Now, a growth mindset teaches children that their abilities can improve with effort and with persistence. So we want to move away from this fixed mindset that nothing can change to one of growth. And again, it's especially empowering for our children with dyslexia. So what we want to do is encourage our children to identify what these challenges are, developing this growth mindset. So dyslexia, it often presents academic challenges, particularly in the areas we know of reading, of writing, and of spelling. Now, this can lead to low self-esteem and a sense of failure. But what happens when our child or our children with dyslexia develop this mindset of growth? It helps to shift that narrative. So now we're encouraging children to embrace the challenges and then to see these mistakes as, okay, this is an opportunity for me to grow rather than as a permanent setback. So it's all about growth and embracing the challenges. So let's see, why is a growth mindset so important? So I'm going to go through a few points here as to why a growth mindset is important. So first of all, it encourages resilience in the face of challenges. Now, a child with dyslexia may face repeated difficulties in areas like reading, writing, which we've identified already. And this can make them feel like, oh, they're not good enough or that they'll never improve. But with a growth mindset, it's teaching them that the struggle is actually part of the learning process, and that with persistence, they will see that they're improving over time. So again, let's give an example. Instead of saying, I'll never be good at reading, a child that has a growth mindset might think, reading is hard, but I can get better with practice. Again, we're looking at how this shift will help the child stay motivated and encourage them to keep trying, even when progress can seem slow. Now, a growth mindset also promotes a positive attitude towards learning. So children with this fixed mindset that we've spoken about tend to avoid tasks. So you may see that they believe they're not good enough. There may be this fear of failure or even embarrassment. Now, what we want for a child with dyslexia, we want them to move away from this fixed mindset. When they have this attitude of avoidance, you may see that they're avoiding written tasks or reading activities. So if you're a teacher and you recognize that every time you ask a particular child to read out in class, they're avoiding it, it's because they have this fixed mindset that, oh, somebody is going to, identify my failures. But if we have a child with a growth mindset, they will see this as an opportunity to improve their skills rather than a proof of their limitations. So when a child is struggling with reading aloud in class, a child with a growth mindset might reflect on this and say, okay, practice will help me improve over time, rather than being discouraged with the immediate difficulties. So they'll face it head on. Now, a growth mindset shifts the focus from outcome to effort. So it means we're not looking at the A grade or the B grade at the end. We're looking at the small steps that they're taking each day, the effort that is being made to improve over time. Now, a growth mindset helps children understand that effort, rather than their innate talent or ability, is the key to success. That's what we want to focus on when we're developing this growth mindset. So for children with dyslexia, this can be really transformative. Their efforts help them, as their efforts to learn often are greater than those who their peers, but not recognizing, or you're not seeing the results immediately. So we want to encourage them that yes, persistence, improvement over time is what we're focusing on. So we're praising their perseverance rather than the results. Again, this will reinforce that, okay, my hard work is paying off. I was able to read 2 pages today with less errors, and I got praised for it. So now I want to continue. So you really want to encourage a child by praising them for their effort, and letting them see that as they continue to improve, they're making strides and steps towards doing better in the areas that they want to improve on. Now, this growth mindset also helps to reduce fear and failure. Now, we know our children with dyslexia, they will make mistakes along the way in their learning journey. And some of them may be afraid of making these mistakes. And this in itself can hold them back from fully participating in class activities, in taking risks in their learning. But what we want to do when we're trying to build this growth mindset is normalize mistakes. It's part of the learning process. This in itself will reduce some of that stigma around failure, because they know, yes, I can make a mistake because that's how I learn, that's how I grow, that's how I'll improve. And that in itself will create a safer environment for the child to experiment, even to ask for help, because they know they're not going to be shot down that, oh, you've made a mistake and you've done this wrong, but rather encouraged with the safe steps that they've been able to take. So now let me give you an example of this one. It would be when a child makes a mistake in spelling or reading, for example, they can be encouraged to think, what can I learn from this mistake, rather than feeling ashamed or discouraged by it. And this in itself will help them to bounce back more quickly from setbacks, because they're looking at it from the perspective of, I have something to learn. And now a growth mindset is something that helps to build self-esteem and also confidence. So our children with dyslexia may have lower levels of self-esteem because of the struggles they go through every day in the classroom. But with a growth mindset, we're trying to foster a sense of accomplishment, like I said previously, based on effort and progress, rather than comparing them to others. We really want to avoid the comparison with others. Now, again, this will help the child to build their self-confidence, and then they will now believe that they actually have the potential to grow, no matter where their starting point was. So instead of thinking, oh, I'm just not as smart as other kids, a child with a growth mindset might say, I'm improving every day because I'm working hard. And this in itself reinforces their belief in their capacity for growth. Again, a growth mindset improves long-term learning and achievement. Now, by focusing on effort, on persistence, this growth mindset is encouraging children with dyslexia to develop strategies and habits that will lead to long-term learning and success. So we know a child with dyslexia, it might mean that they need to develop some coping mechanisms, some coping strategies. So some of these could be breaking down their tasks into smaller, more manageable activities. It could even mean seeking and looking for extra support, or it could be the use of assisted technology. So these strategies will help to build resilience, and ultimately it will lead to greater academic achievement. Now, some of these will be covered in the next part of the presentation. Now, as parents and as teachers, we also want you to adopt a growth mindset approach. Why? Because when you adopt this approach, you encourage children with dyslexia to focus on their progress and effort. So you in the classroom or at home, you're encouraging and you're motivating the child from the efforts they've made and not just the outcome that we're looking for at the end. Now, this in itself can reduce some of the pressure. It can reduce some of the stress, because You know, it's a supportive environment where the child now feels very safe to take risks, make mistakes, and learn from these mistakes. So maybe an example for some of our parents out there, instead of saying, oh, why didn't you get all of the spelling words right, for example? As a parent, you might say instead, oh, I noticed how much time you spent practicing your reading, and I can see the improvement. Let's keep going. Now, this in itself encourages the child to keep trying. It reinforces that improvement that comes through effort. So we've spoken a bit about growth mindset. What I want to conclude with is looking at how we can support our child's emotional well-being. Now, when we're looking at a child's emotional well-being, we want to first of all look at addressing these feelings of frustration that we've spoken about. Now, especially the learning challenges that the children experience trying to keep up with schoolwork, the struggling, we want to be able to acknowledge their emotions. If they say to you they're frustrated by something or they're unhappy about something, we want to acknowledge those emotions and provide that safe space for them to really express their feelings. And this in itself is really essential for their emotional well-being. So you want to allow your child to express the feelings without any fear of criticism. Validate their emotions. It teaches them that it's okay to feel this way and that their feelings actually matter. So an example would be when your child comes home maybe upset about a difficult assignment they have at school, rather than immediately jump into the solution, you might say in the first instance, I can see that this is really hard for you, and that's okay. Do you want to talk about it? What's upsetting you or what's making you feel so frustrated? Now, by validating their feelings, you've now opened that door to the problem solving after you've actually acknowledged their emotions. They can now work on facing the problem. Now, we want to also provide them with emotional support. So let's provide emotional support for our children. When they're upset, we want to show empathy. We want to help them understand that their feelings are natural and they can express themselves. Then we want to also build their confidence. Now, confidence building is really key to a child's success. We want to learn to celebrate even the smallest successes because it will help boost their self-esteem. And again, this is really important when they're facing academic challenges and difficulties. So how can we do that? We can celebrate some of the small wins. Make sure you highlight the progress, no matter how small it is. Again, this will reinforce that sense of accomplishment, and it encourages the child to keep trying. So every small step that you see they're progressing, give them praise, encourage them, motivate them. Then we also want to boost their self-esteem through recognition. This goes back to what I've said earlier about acknowledging both effort and outcome. So for example, when your child finishes a very challenging task, let's emphasize that the hard work that they've put in, let's praise and encourage them for going that far and putting in the effort. So after completing a project or a reading assignment, you can say, oh, I've seen how hard you've worked on that. Even when it got very tricky, you kept going, you kept persevering. Now, this in itself shows a lot of strength and a lot of determination. So I'll end my part here. I'll hand over to Barbara, who's going to speak about fostering self-advocacy. And as you're listening to the presentation, please remember you can ask questions in the chat that we'll be able to address later. So Barbara.
Hello, Sam. Thank you very much. So parents, educators, you are welcome. I'm going to talk about fostering self-advocacy. So with all self-advocacy, it's a skill that we want parents to instill in their children. This is the need of every dyslexic child to know the resource and help they are required to have to effectively communicate their needs to the right people. It is very crucial for our dyslexic children to develop independence and also to contribute to their personal and academic success. They are able to navigate their education environment by how they are able to communicate their needs effectively. It helps children to take responsibility for their learning. And so with this, one of the key skills they have to develop is effective communication. Self-advocacy relies on clear, respectful communication, learning to express needs as a dyslexic child without being passive or aggressive. Communication is a primary tool for effective self-advocacy. Students and children are able to articulate their needs in the way that promotes understanding and cooperation. With that, they are able to explain to their peers, their teachers, those that they find themselves in their space. They need to understand, as an advocate, they need to really understand what dyslexic is, what are the challenges, what are their strengths. Once they are very well equipped and knowledgeable about what they are going through, what they're experiencing, telling a third party makes it easy for them to speak their mind, to get support. You are able to explain to your peers in simple terms so that in having specific challenges in class, you are being given the respect and the support that you need. So for instance, as parents, we need to, I'm emphasizing on role playing again, you need to have the role playing of how they can use the I statements practice. So for instance, if they are having challenges in class, they are feeling overwhelmed, they should be able to say, I feel overwhelmed because I have multiple deadlines. I need to get additional time to complete my assignments. With that one, because they understand their need, they are able to seek for support, they're able to seek for help, and they don't blame others for whatever they are going through. So they are able to give constructive feedback and responses so that they feel very comfortable in the classroom space. If the way a teacher teaches, they feel that they did not understand, they should be able to tell their teacher, Mr. Sari, with this particular part of speech, the way you explained to me, can you explain further? With this, once we become an advocate in class, it's also going to help the other children in the classroom because, mind you, there are challenges that it doesn't come only to the dyslexic child, but the class in general needs that particular support. So once we teach their child the skill of advocacy, they are able to speak up for their class in a very respectful way. They are able to give constructive feedback. You can also train your child to articulate their needs. So for instance, if you have a parent-teacher meeting, you should sit with your child and say, let me understand what exactly is happening in the classroom. How can I support you when I go for this parent-teacher meeting? With this one, you empower your child to communicate their needs when the appropriate authorities ask for them. Advocating skills is also when you use the right tools and resources. Now you need to familiarize yourself with the assistive technologies like the text-to-speech or speech-to-text software. If you are very confident in the usage of it and you take your child through that system, your child is able to sit. If their child is in secondary school preparing for BEC, they get the extra support. Once they know they are getting the support in the classroom and they make use of these resources and tools, they are able to participate in classroom discussions. They are able to get the view of, okay, when I use the text to speech, I understood it this way, so that they did not become isolated when they go to the class, when they're having classroom discussions. They're able to bring in main points that others in the class may not have even thought about it. So using these tools, these resources help your child to articulate themselves very much that they are very appreciated in the class. They should familiarize themselves with this software. It also helps them to plan. Now, having the access to organizational tools, you plan, you have checklists, you are able to know how to manage your tasks. You should be able to know that, okay, with this particular assignment, why don't I handle the project-based assignments, then the written, the comprehension, and the reading assignments? My parents or my siblings can assist me when they are free. With that, the child becomes confident in trying to do other things on their own. And so they don't wait for others to assist them. Every time they get to navigate themselves in the classroom space. Connecting with others who have similar experience also help build a supportive environment. They discuss their challenges. We've got to know that no two dyslexic are the same. So once they know the environment, they've gotten their peers, their schoolmates support them, they know what this person is good at, it offers them a different perspective. It encourages collaborative advocacy. They are able to work so that their needs are given in a group setting. They develop the skills so that they can control their journey, their academic journey confidently, and they are able to speak for themselves. They are able to know who needs help. They are able to identify their mates that should be given the necessary support, the extra time, their mates that should be allowed to do project-based activities. With this one, their resilience level is strengthened. They are able to know that, okay, I have been able to work very well. And so with me being able to advocate, now I have been able to build that system that I can be able to, they build that system that they can be able to bounce back when they have any kind of setbacks. Now, resilient building is very, very necessary. We have to teach our children that mistakes and challenges are opportunities for growth. It is not something that once you fail in a particular area, you do not move ahead. This is something that they know how to come back. They know what they have been equipped to succeed in their academic life. They should see challenges as a learning opportunity. Help your child to be able to set tasks. Even if it's a very difficult task, they should be able to make sure that they will succeed in that difficult task. Now with that, they are able to know the assignment they have to do. They sit down and identify their strengths and challenges. They are able to know that with this particular assignment, I need extra time. I need to use audiobooks. I need to get assessment tools for me to be able to know what I am good at. They are able to have reflective journals to put down when the teacher gave me this reading assignment. With the part A, I was able to do it well because we have discussed it in class and I was able to make my small notes. With part B, I will need my teacher to explain further. They have identified their strength. We can use tools like the SWOT analysis so that your child will be taking notes because they'll be making their personal notes. They should be able to know that, okay, I've been in a class for 6 weeks now. I find myself in a new academic year. I'm in a secondary school. 6 weeks now, I've been able to know that when it comes to this particular assignment, this is my strength. This is the opportunity I find in the classroom space. This is what this is my trait. This is what if I don't pay close attention to, it will lead to ripple effects. So your child being able to identify their strength challenges makes them very comfortable in the school space. They are able to know what are my preferences, what are my unique skills, what can I be able to do? They've been able to identify the situations that they might need to advocate more. There are some situations that because they are very comfortable with, you might think they are not speaking up, but they have found a strategy to overcome that. There are other instances they will speak, ask for more accommodations, extra time, which means that they've been able to identify their weaknesses. And also, setting personal goals is very, very key. Parents, educators, we should set realistic academic and personal goals tailored to our strengths and challenges that we've been able to identify through the SWOT analysis. When we do that, we set SMART goals, and it should be very, very clear to be able to identify what we need to do. So for instance, if your child is in JHS or the junior high school, the senior high school, we should be able to know that, okay, my child will be doing this program when they move to the next level of their educational ladder in 3 years to come. If they find themselves going to the senior high school, this is the strength I've identified. This is the interest my child may be able to pick up. With that, you monitor their progress and you celebrate their achievements. Samantha made us aware that we should celebrate the small wins. We should celebrate how far they've come. So if they are doing a program that's more of project-based activities and they are able to express themselves, they're able to lead a class, then this is the situation that your child is getting towards hands-on activities, more of skills-based. So you should encourage them. It is very helpful so that your child do not become intimidated in the classroom space. So if they set the plans and the goals, you should have action plan. Now the action plan is, this is what you want to achieve. How are we going to get there? Who are the teachers we should talk to? Who are the extra support system we need to align ourselves with? Who are the support networks? With all this in mind, your child sees that we are working towards a common goal. You should also have checkpoints. Once you have the checkpoints, your child will be able to know that, okay, I'll take this particular aspect because this is what I said I'll do at the end of 4 weeks. I have been able to achieve them. With this particular one, it's very relevant to my career aspirations I want to gain. So it becomes very systematic, and parents, they become your accountability partner, of course. And so you check siblings, older siblings, younger siblings can all contribute, and so that we know that this is what we want to achieve as a family. And so with all this, we need to encourage perseverance. We need to remind our child that success do not come instantly. And so we need to stick with whatever we are going through. Now, let me give a typical example. If your child has given themselves that mark of reading within 30 minutes, and the first time they read within 30 minutes, that was good. If the second time they went beyond 30 minutes and now they are at 40 minutes, we shouldn't discourage them. They shouldn't be discouraged. We should encourage them that once they have not given up on reading, once they keep reading their literature notes or whichever assignment they've given to them, trying to memorize it, within 30, 40 minutes is fine. With constant practice, you realize that you get back to the target of 30 minutes. This is where we should be able to know that you don't give up. Even in life, whether you're dyslexic or whichever area you find yourself, we do not give up in the profession we want to pursue. We keep encouraging each other. We keep working at it. We get people who try to support us. Once your child knows that this is what happens in the real world, we all find ourselves in one way or the other picking up what we said we would do, trying to maneuver our way around it. They become very comfortable. They do not see as something that pertains just to them, but they're able to build that skill of overcoming that challenges. Now, another thing I want as parents, educators to practice with our children is mindfulness. Our children should be mindful of their present situation. They should be very much aware of what is happening. Parents, with the little education, the awareness we've created in this month of October, we should have meaningful conversations with our children. They should be able to identify the things that have been, whether it's through assessment, whether we've diagnosed them. These are some of the things. You've read more. You are not going to compare them with any other child, because with this practice, you know that they are going to be very, very mindful. They speak what they are going to do. And mindfulness brings a lot of life satisfaction. You know what you are going through. You know when to ask for extra time. You know which of the projects you are comfortable doing. You become very satisfied in life. You become very positive. You speak positive words yourself, because you know that when it comes to other aspects in the classroom, that is your top notch. So you have that sense of competence. Your self-esteem is on top notch, and it increases focus and productivity. You become very productive in the class because you have been able to identify your space. You've been able to see how you are going to navigate your way through your academic ladder. So practicing mindfulness is key, and I will encourage every parent to do that, and we are going to be very successful with this journey of creating much awareness in the space we find ourselves. The next thing I want to talk about, identifying skills and talents of our child. Now, with identifying the skills, it becomes a holistic approach. This is the approach that every child and parent need to know that we don't always have to focus on what is going on in the traditional classroom space. So for instance, we shouldn't be too concerned about, oh, when I went to check my child's book, he got 30%, he got 40%, he got 50%. We should be able to give a whole assessment. Recognize that our child is more than their test scores. Our child's ability in the classroom space is something that with what they are doing, they are very creative. And when it comes to critical thinking, they contribute much. The teachers have identified that anything got to do with bringing new ideas, they are able to do that. When there's a problem in class, it can be any challenge, and your child becomes the problem solver. Your child have the social skills. They build good social relationship with among their peers. They've been able to identify other skills. Once we do this holistic assessment, it gives us a calming atmosphere. As well, with this particular aspect, my child can lead on this project. When we go to church and there's this activity, my child, I have noticed that will be very creative in directing a play or a drama. My child will be able to solve a challenging situation we have at home. With that, children with dyslexia, we need to uncover their talent and not be so much concerned about the challenges of reading and writing, because we are very conscious of that and we are working towards it. But we shouldn't work towards it whilst we neglect the other skills and talent that they have. We need to unearth it, and we need to nurture those non-academic skills. This is a situation that we need to give them much opportunities for them to do project-based activities. Our child should be more focused on hands-on experiential learning, which better aligns with their strength, and they'll thrive in that environment. It becomes very practical with them. Projects, we should allow our children to engage in projects that they see the big picture. And it is a very common strength that many dyslexic learners have. They understand the holistic concept. They see the bigger picture. So if a child is interested in storytelling, encourage them to create a video, audio book where they can narrate a story. That is the bigger picture. That is what we look beyond them reading. Once their creative cap is on, they are able to know that I can do this. We should devise a different way. We have our smartphones. While they're telling the stories, we can video them, we can show it to them, we can celebrate their success. If they are working on building projects, using tools like Logo or even digital software, our child can be practicing. Or also, if your child is very artistic, they should be interested in involving themselves in projects like drawing, painting, doing things that show their creativity. And so when we encourage our child to be more focused on their strength base, we are able to help them overcome their struggles. We are able to identify and value their unique strengths. We are able to observe the natural talents they have, like the problem solving, the creativity, their verbal communication, rather than solely fixing our attention on their reading and writing difficulties. So as parents and educators, I want to encourage that let's create a list of identifying our children's strengths and observe them and bring out more activities. Once we are intentional about it, creating the list, okay, my child is able to do this, my child does this very well. We create the list every now and then. I'm sure by mid-year, end of year, if you sit with your child, it will amaze all of us what your child has been able to do. And we should be able to support activities that align with their strength, so that it can reinforce their positive self-image. Once they know that the parent support is there, the parents are engaging them in coding class for their problem solving, art class for their creative mind. It brings out that energy. It brings them the opportunity of them always wanting to go to an environment that will build up their skills. They are able to know that they can be one of the transformative leaders in their families. So with this, parents, let's please work towards it. We shouldn't give up. We should be able to identify what our child can do. Now, the next one I want to talk is the supportive environment for skill development. Now, we should be intentional about how we are going to build the skills of our children. We should be able to know that, okay, I have identified the unique strengths. What can I do? Which of the after school programs can I sign my child on? Which activity can I get a teacher to support my child with? What are the structured interventions I can do? Looking at the skills my child is exhibiting, how best can I support my child? With that, let's set goals so that if this particular term your child wants to engage in singing, you should be able to know that, okay, I have been able to identify. We must not always think of the money involved. We should think of who can support, who is there. If it is the church we find ourselves or the community we find ourselves and they have a singing group, I can sign my child onto it. If you want to move from the traditional way of the church or the other activities and you want to build up their skills, work on their voice, work on their notch and everything, this is something that you go the extra mile to work on it. And setting realistic goals, you should be able to know that, well, I'll come and watch you. If it's a ballet dance, whatever it is, we should get the parental support. We should get the parents understanding the challenges and the strengths and the unique talents their dyslexic child is going through. Because knowledge will empower our parents to advocate more and get active supporters. We should be able to constantly praise and support our child so that they can maintain that resilient spirit. We should be able to let parents know that, well, this is what my child has been going through. This is now the area that I have decided to work my child with. This is the one that when I go to school, I'm going to have that support system when I go to the school environment. Ask for more claps, because sometimes the ideas from the parents to the school is something that becomes your child can spearhead. If the child is in the secondary school, good for your child. Your child can introduce more clubs. Your child can be able to speak for themselves. Your child will be able to get people around them. That's because their parents, if one parent is not supporting another parent support, the parent that is supporting their child can speak to the second parent because they have been intentional about understanding what their child is going through. And with this, they can be able to link their child to a mentor. A mentor is someone who understands your dyslexic child and guide them through the challenges, offer them practical advice and encouragement. The mentor will help your child build life skills and social confidence. They can model strategies for whatever they are doing, time management, coping with frustrations. You can get a counselor, whether if your school has a counselor, you can ask the school authorities if you can book an appointment to talk to the counselor. Other than that, ADO can also link you to counselors who can support, draw a program for your child, see how best you can work with your child. Building a safe space for your child where your child is not judged, it should be a non-judgmental space where your child can express their concern, learn self-advocacy, and this is very, very crucial for their growth. Now you can introduce them to role models. Our very own Rosalind is a role model. Your child can talk to her, ask all the questions, find out, am I the only one going through? Sometimes when you're going through situations, we think we are the only one. But if you get to know that someone went through this situation, this is what the person did, these are the success story, these are the opportunities that you can gain out of how, if you're able to advocate for a particular cause, you get more people ascribing to it. Your child realizes that, oh, so with this that I'm doing in school, I will not be targeted and speak ill against. This is something that everyone one day will celebrate how far I've been able to bring people together. So we should be able to celebrate resilience and creativity in our child. With the role models, they are able to openly discuss their journey. We've heard the story of Rosalind, and it's very encouraging. Once we get our children talking to someone who is in whatever they have experienced, they'll be able to know that, well, with this, I'm going for the gold medal, I'll succeed. So parents, I'll hand over to Justina, who also have a beautiful session with you. Thank you very much.
Justina, you're muted.
Oh, I'm so sorry. Good evening, everybody. Good evening. Thank you so much, Barbara, and thank you, Samantha. Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. So we are going to have a look at now what real conversations will look like with educators and how we manage our expectations, both as professionals and as parents. So we know the journey in supporting our dyslexic children is one that is complex, and it involves both what we do, what we say, what we think. So one of the things that Samantha's highlighted really, really well is around the importance of cultivating healthy habits, what you focus on, building in consistency and practice. And Barbara also has talked at length about this as well, which all of these strategies are really, really helpful to combine to make sure that you are nurturing your young person. So what do healthy habits look like? Healthy habits are having very clear plans, knowing how you're supporting the young person, providing the appropriate space and time and language to allow them to put into practice all of these strategies that have already been spoken about. Having a very clear educational program and plan for your young person. So that comes in the form of an IEP, an individual education plan, and we're going to unpack that a bit more shortly. Managing expectations is absolutely critical. Being very realistic about what your child can do and what goals your child can achieve. There is no point setting goals for your child which are completely unachievable for them and leads them to feel a sense of failure or inadequacy. You have to balance the academic needs of the young person as well as the support, emotional needs that they need and the emotional support that's provided. If a child feels disheartened or lacking in confidence or self-awareness or self-esteem, it's going to be much harder for them to navigate areas that they're finding challenging. And so therefore, the role that you play as the adult in this is crucial, really, really important. So how do we do that? In order to do that, you first need to know what you're looking for. What is it that the child is struggling with? So recognizing the signs of dyslexia in your child, be that your student or your child at home. So if you don't know what area they're struggling in, it's very hard for you to come up with a plan. So for your young person, are they having problems with reading and spelling? Are the spelling tests coming back regularly showing that they're not able to remember, they're not able to spell, they are essentially failing in this assessment? Are they struggling to read? Are they having difficulty understanding sounds of letters? Are they getting them mixed up? Are they forgetting, like they know it today, but tomorrow they don't know? They know it this week, but next week they don't know. So are they having trouble remembering things that you know you've taught them, you know you've done it with them, but they just can't remember? Are they having trouble following instructions? So if you give them instructions, which are more than one thing, so for example, go upstairs, get your shoes and your school bag and come back downstairs. Do they get upstairs and then come back to you and say, what did you say I had to do again? Are they struggling to follow the steps of instructions? Are they getting frustrated with reading activities or avoiding them full stop? Are they finding that really hard to navigate? Are they making excuses to avoid these activities that involve any kind of reading, whether it's be online or a physical book or instructions, manuals, or anything like that? Are they struggling with that and really reliant more on visual cues? And if any of these things are happening, or all of these is happening, then you need to know how you're going to support your child through them, how you are going to advocate as a parent. And when we say advocate, for those of you that are on the listening or watching the replay, to advocate is simply to speak up for another person. So as a parent, how are you going to speak up for your child in that you've recognized that these are the areas that they are struggling in? So we're going to go through some of the ways that you can do that. So your opinion is really important. You are your child's first educator and you are their greatest advocate. So never be shy in speaking up for what your child needs and expressing areas that your child is struggling in. Know your child's rights. Know what should be happening in school. And that means having regular time with the school staff, engaging with them, speaking to them, asking them questions. What should my child be doing now? What is the expectation? Where is my child at? What are the areas that my child is struggling in? How can I help my child more at home? What do I need to be able to do to support my child? Have those conversations with your child's teachers and the school staff and get advice from them. Also, be aware that there is so much information out there because of the internet, because of social media platforms. So find resources that will help you, research, find out. There are other parents who are also struggling, who've overcome it. There are professionals who are experts in this area. So find out what they are saying and find out what you can do to support your child in addition to where they are. So I mentioned earlier about an IEP, an individual education plan, and I'd like us to just talk through what this is. Many people have heard of this term, but really don't understand what it is and what it means and how they even go about navigating it. Sometimes schools will just present you with a piece of paper and they'll tell you this is your child's IEP, and it will have all this writing on there and you can read it and think, what on earth is this? What does this mean? What am I supposed to do with this? So let's unpack what an individual education plan is. So it is simply a personalized plan to help your child to learn. It should be a very simple document that is understandable with language that you can understand. If you are given a document and it has loads of words on it and you have no idea what it's talking about, ask your school to simplify it for you so that you are able to understand what it says and you are able to follow it. An individual education plan is made up of three very key components. What are the goals? So what the goals are related to where your child is struggling, where they need to develop, where they need to strengthen. So a goal will be set in accordance with that. Once that goal is set, what's the teacher going to do to help your child achieve that goal? What strategies is the teacher going to employ to ensure that your child can meet the goal that's been set? And what support is going to be available? Who is going to do what and when? So the plan needs to be very specific about how it meets your child's needs. It needs to be measurable. So what time are we talking about? Are we talking about by the end of this term, by the end of this school year, within 3 months, within 6 months? It has to be time bound and measurable. So by the end of term 1, your child will be able to achieve X, Y, and Z. The teacher will do this, and this, and the strategies we will use in class will be this, and this. And at home, and this is the key bit that I need you all to really understand, it should identify what you as a parent or caregiver can do at home. So at home, this is what parents or the caregivers can do to support this goal to be achieved. And this is what it will look like when your child has achieved that goal. So what I would like us to do, I'd like us to just look at some examples and just go through that process again. And then we're going to look at some examples of what a target could look like. So you start off with a goal. What is the need? identify the need of the child. So it might be that your child is struggling to remember their phonics. It might be that your child is struggling with attention and focus. It might be that your child is not reading at the level that they should be. So these are the steps to create your IEP. Identify the need. So that need could be what you have observed as a parent, what the teacher has observed as a teacher, any other professionals involved with that child, what they may have observed and have fed back. That actually, I notice I take Justina for English, and I've noticed in English that she really struggles when it comes to comprehension and answering comprehension questions. So I'd like us to have an IEP that looks like how we support her to develop her comprehension skills, for example. The next step is to meet with the team. Now, what a lot of schools do is they create these IEPs and then they present it to the parent. A good IEP involves the parent in the creation. So even if the school starts it, they will give it to the parent to review and to input and give their own feedback before it is finalized. You should not be getting a finalized IEP that you haven't contributed to as a parent, because that means that your voice hasn't been included in that document. And therefore, what you do at home is going to be something separate to what the school are doing. There has to be a joined up approach. You need to know what the school is doing. The school needs to know what you're doing, so that together you're working together to support the achievement of that goal that has been set for that young person. So once you have that meeting and you agree, yes, we do need an IEP. These are the areas that I think we should focus on. These are the areas that we think we should focus on. The plan is then written, and the goals and the support services are documented on the plan. So who is going to do what? If there is a 20-minute intervention every day on phonics, who is going to be delivering that? Is it the teacher? Is it the support assistant? Is it the Senko? Is it an external person that's coming in? Who's going to do that? Once all of that is agreed, then the IEP is approved, and that is the plan that everybody is working towards. Everybody is working from. So every teacher that is teaching your child should have this plan in front of them as they're creating their lesson plans, and they should be incorporating these goals into their lesson plans so that everybody is continually working on these goals. Because if only one person is working on it and 5 others are not, it's unlikely your child is going to achieve it. Because remember what we said earlier about consistency and practice. This has to be a daily, weekly occurrence over a period of time in order for the goal to be embedded and it to be something that the child will carry through with them. So here are some examples. So we're going to look at early years in the first instance. So you have a child who is 4 or 5 at the top end of early years. The target is that by the end of the next term, the child's name, Justina, will be able to recognize and correctly identify 10 out of 15 common phonic sounds, such as s, a, t, p, n, during a one-to-one phonics session with the teacher or support assistant. So remember what I said about it has to be clear what needs to be done, the strategy that's going to be employed, and who's going to do it. Yeah, so the teacher or the support assistant is going to do that. The parents, you know that the letters that are going to be focused on for this term are the letters SATPN, the phonic sounds s, a, t, p, n. If you don't know what the phonic sounds are, and it's okay not to know, because not everybody's been trained on this. You can Google it, you can go on YouTube, you can ask your child's teacher to just explain to you and sound it out. And it's really important that you know how what the mouth should look like when making those sounds. So get the teacher to do a little 10, 20 minutes training with you and give you an example of how those sounds sound. And then when you're out, you're shopping, you're in the shops, you're at home, you could be practicing that all the time. You don't have to sit the child down and do a lesson with them. It can just be part of every day. You can use family names to be the ones. So if you have a family member who's called Sewa, 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 oh, Sewa's name, You can have pictures. There's loads of things, and make it animated and fun so that it's not a chore and it's not boring. If you have a primary school child, for example, someone aged between 7 and 9, the target could be by the end of the school year, Justina will read 50 new high frequency words such as and, the, was correctly at the rate of at least 10 new words per month during weekly reading practice with the teacher or support assistant. So each month, we've got a new month coming up. So the month of November, we will have a list of the 10 words that we're focusing on this month. And those 10 words, we will practice the sound phonetically. We will practice what that word looks like in sentences by itself and then in sentences. We will look for that word in different texts, and we will continually practice. If we need to make songs up about it, we can make songs about it. We can make up stories surrounding it. So you can do a sentence and then you let the child put where the and the and the was, or whatever the other words are. Let them insert the words into the story that you're making up. What they hear is important before what they see, before what they apply. So let's look at what a secondary example would look like. So for a child typically aged between 12 to 14, and one of the things that the caveats I want to make for you is your child could be chronologically of this age, but they could be operating at a younger age when it comes to reading and reading fluency and writing. So you may have a secondary school age child whose reading levels are at the primary school age. So although they might be 12 to 14, they might be reading at a 5 to 6 year old level or a 7 to 8 year old level. So you need to also bear that in mind when you're setting your targets. So for the secondary school pupil, the target could be by the end of the term, Justina will use text-to-speech software to independently read and summarize one assigned text per week of 100 to 150 words from their English class, achieving a 70% accuracy rate in comprehension test. So you will have a piece of text that they will be able to listen to independently, read, and they'll be able to summarize what they have heard and what they have read, and they'll be able to write it out in about 100 to 150 words within their English class or on the back of their English class. And when you look at the comprehension test, they will be getting at least 70% correct, because 70% correct is a place to celebrate, and then you know how to move them forward so they're working towards the 100%. You don't aim them at 100% to start off with, because then you're setting them up for disappointment or failure if they can't achieve 100%. So 70% is a really good starting point to look at aiming for them to achieve, and then you take it on from there. So these are just some examples that you can use to look at and see, is the IEP target that's been set for my child, is it specific? So we know exactly what's going to be learned. Is it measurable? We know how long it's going to be for. Is it achievable? Does it reflect the stage of learning that my child is at? Is it realistic? Can my child move from point A to point E in the time span that we've been given? And is it time bound? So we know when we're gonna assess if it's been achieved. So that school term, that school year is time bound. So none of this is achievable unless the school and the home work together. Schools cannot do it on their own. Parents cannot do it on their own. So it's really important that you are in good communication and you are working in partnership. So how do we do that? First of all, have open communication. Keep in regular contact. Make time to meet with your child's teacher on a regular basis, whether it be weekly, fortnightly, monthly. Don't leave it until parents' evening or parent-teacher conferences to find out how your child is doing. Even if it's a WhatsApp, an email, a telephone call, or a face-to-face meeting or a virtual meeting, have regular communication to see how your child is doing. any areas of concern that have been flagged up, but also to share how you are doing at home, what's working at home, what you've noticed, what's not working, what you're concerned about. Support your child's learning at home. Find simple ways to help them. So create a time that is protected for them to be able to do their work. Don't be giving them household chores that they have to do before they can do their work, or give them the pressure up. You've got 20 minutes, and then after that, we need to do X, Y, and Z. You need to go and clean your room. You need to go and cook. You need to go and do activities. Give them plenty of time to help them. Make sure your language is positive and encouraging. Don't demean them. Don't say, oh, as for you, I don't know about you. I don't know how this is going to work. You need to do this work, because if you don't do this work, this is what's going to happen to you. There's nothing worse than a child going into an activity that they're already nervous about, and then they've got more anxiety because they know they're going to get in trouble in some way or another from the adult that they desperately want approval from. Celebrate progress. As Barbara pointed out, it's really important to recognize your child's successes, recognize what they are doing well, and celebrate that. Exaggerate the celebration if you have to, because it will motivate them to keep trying. If they think that they are failing, like I said before, what's the why try? Why continue? So please celebrate their progress, no matter how small it may seem. Celebrate their progress. So we have this IEP. We now know what home is doing. We know what school is doing. Now, who is responsible for the IEP? And sometimes in my work, what I found is parents have an expectation that the school will do everything and the school is responsible. And the parents and the school believe that actually, look, we've done our bit, we've created a form, that's the end of it. We don't need to think about it. That is not the case. The school, the teachers, the SENCO, and the support staff are responsible for the IEP. The parents are responsible for checking progress and staying in touch. And all of the people involved are responsible for regular reviews and updating the plan when it's needed. So when you have a review, if the child hasn't achieved the goal, don't create a brand new goal. Adjust that goal to see. So maybe they didn't achieve it because we didn't give enough time. Maybe they didn't achieve it because the person who was supposed to support them, maybe they were off sick, so they didn't get as much support. Maybe they didn't achieve it because actually we realized maybe it was too ambitious and we need to scale it down a bit. Maybe they did achieve it and they achieved it really quickly, which means we underestimated how well they could do. And so now we need to think about what will offer them the most input, but also give them a little bit of challenge and a little bit of stretch to get them to really try. So the simple answer to that is everybody's responsible for the IEP. Everybody. The teachers, the SENCO, the support staff, and the parents, caregivers are all responsible for the IEP. And it's really important that you all continue to have that conversation and check in regularly to see how well you are all doing in your respective areas. So what now? We've looked at how to support the emotional well-being of your children. We've looked at the importance of their mental health, their growth mindset, supporting them, celebrating, making sure that they really know that you 100% are behind them, that you as teachers, you support them, you celebrate them, and you recognize. We've listed some support resources for you as parents, but also educators are also able to tap into these and garner information and support from them. Please take a screenshot of them, but all of this information is also available on our website. So you are able to access it from our website, which is www.africadyslexia.org. That's www.africadyslexia.org. You'll be able to get all of the information from there, and hopefully that will help you, but we are also available. So we've come to that amazing time of questions, and I hope that you've all been putting your questions in the chat, and the team would have been collating them. And so we will know what questions we're going to cover and what we're not. So our first one is WAEC, WAEC, open to making adjustments for children with dyslexia during country exams? Are the children given extra time to complete tasks? Shall I hand that one over to you, Barbara?
Okay, thank you. So when it comes to examinations, we need to go in with a test, an assessment. So once you have the assessment for your child from a recognized institution, you can send it to WIEC and they'll be able to provide the accommodations for you. So yes, please, they'll be able to do the accommodations, but you can not do it by verbally telling them that I suspect my child is dyslexic. You need to go through the assessments. You have your full report, then it will be done for you. Thank you.
Yeah. And I just want to add that sometimes parents are really nervous about getting their child assessed and they are concerned about the stigma and the label. But if you want external support for your child outside of yourself and your child's class teacher, you will need to provide some kind of evidence that supports what you are asking for. So having the diagnosis is actually really important. And I always stress to parents that as much as you don't want your child to be labeled with having this need, dyslexia, your child will be labeled anyway. Your child will be labeled and judged on how they're presenting. And so, isn't it better that you know that actually my child is struggling with his learning or her learning because they are dyslexic, rather than somebody just thinking your child is misbehaving, your child's being stubborn, your child lacks intelligence, your child, and all the other names that we know that people call um Rosalind always quotes and says, people are called blockheaded and things like that. So it's just get the assessment done because it will really help you to get the full breadth of support your child needs. Okay, what's our next question? Do we have any more questions? Our admin team are busily working in the back. So Alice says, that's so true. Their self-esteem is very difficult. It's delicate. It's very important to encourage a growth mindset. Absolutely. I don't know if any of you want to touch on that.
Yeah,
Um,
and not. I just want to add that it's not just about the child with dyslexia developing that growth mindset, but us as parents and as educators also recognizing it. So when we're interacting with our children, let's think about how we can really use positive words and reframe how the children see themselves or even speak about themselves. Even sometimes us as adults, we need to think about the language we use when we're communicating. So I think it goes across board. Of course, our focus is our children and young people with dyslexia. But yes, as educators and as parents, let's remind ourselves that it's about the effort and not just about the result, the end game.
Absolutely, absolutely. I often say that when it comes to our children and their learning, half the battle is with us in our mindset as parents. Because when we have our children, we have such ambition and desire and hope for them. And we have a picture painted of what they're going to do and what they're going to achieve. And when life starts showing us that that picture isn't going to materialize the way we've envisioned it can be very difficult. It can be very challenging. And it's really important to be able to acknowledge that and recognize that actually what I thought was going to happen isn't what's happening. And to be able to adjust to the reality and the now, the present. This is what's happening. This is what I need to do. And equip yourself with as much knowledge and skill and awareness as you can so that you can be the best help to your child that you possibly can be. The world will condemn your child for what they can't do. You don't need to add to that. What you need to do is build resilience in your child and celebrate your child so that even if somebody ridicules them and somebody criticizes them, your voice is what they're going to hear. And they're going to be able to give a rebuttal and say, do you know what? You might think I'm this, but I know that I am really good at this and I'm really good at that. And I'm an amazing person and I'm wonderful. And the score test doesn't define who I am or how well I did in writing information doesn't tell you about my character and my skills and my talents. And you really need to foster that as a parent. It's really, really important. I wonder if we could come to you, Barbara, to talk about within a Ghana context, what will, as an exams officer, what are some of the expectations that parents can have around exams and support. So I know we talked about the WIEC, but generally, if they're sitting Cambridge exams or IGCSE exams, what are the kind of things that parents can look to ask their schools to support them with?
Okay, so with the international system, whenever we are preparing our students for exams, we have the parent meeting together with their children. We tell them about the support network the school have, the support systems, how we are examining them, the procedures that they can talk to the counselors, academic administrators. So it becomes a very open environment for much discussions because every child and their unique challenge. So we get to a time we do not group them together. We get parents coming in for conversations. If a parent is not coming in, we invite the parents. Then if we're able to identify the traits, we have the special needs coordinator, we talk to her, then we proceed to have the assessment. Then with that assessment, we push it over to Cambridge because your child is going to sit the external exams. We push it for Cambridge, then the Cambridge will also pick it up. So that while they are preparing to get the exams, we get the accommodations, the extra time, and the kind of papers. We have some of the exams that we even have them in extended and core components. So depending on the strength of your child, you'll be able to do the extended aspect. Then if your child needs much time, the person's needs to be reduced, then you do the core component. So these are some of the things that when it comes to Cambridge exams, we have such accommodations for our learners.
Okay, we've had a question through, what are the examples of text-to-speech software? Thank you, Valentine. Do either of you want to answer that? Or do you want me to take it?
Okay, you can go ahead. I mean, generally you go ahead, Justina, go ahead.
Okay, so I'm the worst person to answer this because I never remember tech information. So some of the things that I use that are really, really helpful are on your notes page. You can speak into the notes page and it will type it up for you. Apps like Grammarly, you can download it as an app. It's really, really helpful. When you've written your text, it will read through it and it will correct any grammatical errors that are there. That's really helpful. ChatGTP is really, really helpful. Again, ChatGTP, you can speak into it. You can also take image. You can take an image, you can take a picture of an image and you can insert it and you can ask it to transcribe. You can ask it to create a document for you, a table, a graph, whatever. If you have the free ChatGTP, only allows you to do one image per day, I think, or 2 images per day. But if you have the paid version, you can do as many images as you want. So that is an excellent one as well. So as an ADHDer and an undiagnosed dyslexic, one of the problems that we have is transferring what's in our mind into tangible, concrete information. So when I speak what I'm thinking, those tools really help to just tidy it up and make it more presentable so that it's not all over the place. And it just really helps. So actually, sorry, it's just speaking to, we just popped up, is using tech like cheating. And what's really interesting is the answer to that is no, it's not. It's like, so is somebody who can't walk, who uses a wheelchair, are they cheating when they get to a destination? Did they cheat because everyone needs to walk, but that person can't walk? So they need to use the resource to help them to get to the destination that they need to get. And that's how you need to look at assistive tech. Assistive tech has been designed to help people to be able to achieve the same things that other people don't have to think about. So like I explained, I can talk my thoughts through, I can explain what it is I want to do. I can have 10, 15, 20 ideas that are all running around in my head, and I'm not sure which one to start with, or I don't know how to get started. And sometimes once I get started, I'm okay, but to get started is really, really hard. If I can speak all of these things into a machine and the machine just puts it in order, it's still what's in my mind that's gone into that machine. The machine didn't make it up for me. All they've done is tidy up and help me organize my thoughts. So no, it's definitely not cheating. And teachers shouldn't see it like that. They are a tool. It's like a ruler. does a ruler cheat? Are you cheating if you use a ruler to make a straight line? A ruler is a tool that's been created so that we don't have to try and keep our hands steady as we make a line. These are just things that are there to help us in our day-to-day life and in our learning. So it's absolutely not cheating, and every teacher should try and have as much in their classroom as they possibly can, given their circumstances. And parents, get these things for your children. They will really, really help, because we live in a technical age. Very good point. I've talked so much. I'm gonna let one of you guys answer this one. They're gonna get tired of my voice otherwise.
Okay, so the question is, majority of our African population don't have access to devices and internet. What can a family without access do? So just one thing that I may think we can suggest, if they're in a school environment where there's a library with a shared computer, or there's an IT lab, even if it's a shared device, it's about planning your time and the access to these devices. So yes, it may mean that they need to be a bit more planned and timed with their homework or activities, but you want to seek out the support of the school. Like was spoken about earlier, Barbara spoke about how you must be the advocate for your child in the school environment. So let the teachers or the school environment know that your child needs additional support in this area. How can they give you access to the computer lab during free time or during the break time, so they can access some of these resources? It may even mean you'd have to advocate for the school to even maybe purchasing some of these resources if they need the paid version. So it's about how can we work around the resources we do have so we can offer the children as much support as possible. I don't know if you want to add anything additional, Barbara.
Okay. I want to say that whilst we are trying to solve the issue of devices and internet, we can also ask for, can have open communication, conversations with our child's teacher. We should be able to know what they can support, because your teacher giving them extension of time does not require data. So we can ask for extension of time. We can ask if they can do more hands-on activities, project-based, to build their self-esteem, whilst we try to see how we can advocate for such challenges to be solved in the school environment. Let's try and work towards the teacher understanding the challenges of our child, what they can do, what their peers can also support them with, so that they are not isolated or they are not labeled as being lazy, but there's a way that they can all become very, very cooperative in the class. So we can adopt that skill as well.
Yeah. Also, just quickly to add to that is that you can support a child. So a child who's older and needs to be writing things, you can support them by writing it for them if they say it to you. Also, creating your own resources. If you're able to get access to a local printer and just print things. If you go onto YouTube and you Google creating resources without internet, or you need an internet to do that, but creating resources that can be used without internet can also be helpful. Okay, so we have a question from Betty. I'm 37 years and recently got to know I have dyslexia. What should I do to help with my self-esteem?
Okay, so Betty, let me start. First of all, when we were, I don't know if you were here at the beginning of the session where Justina explained what dyslexia is. And first of all, it's about coming to terms with the fact that it's just a different way of learning. It doesn't make the individual bad, stupid, unable to achieve. It's just a different way of learning. So you could look at it as someone needs additional tools to learn the same thing that someone without dyslexia needs. So first of all, in trying to build your self-esteem, if it's because of the diagnosis, understand that you just need that additional support. And that's okay, that's right, that's fine. And then when we spoke about developing this growth mindset, this is another way that can help you develop or improve your self-esteem. If you are able to come to terms with the fact that I can improve with persistence, with effort, then that will in itself kind of motivate you to keep going, because you're not looking at the final destination, you're looking at all the little incremental steps that you can take to improve. The best thing is that you've now found out that you have dyslexia. It means now you can really work towards getting the support you actually need, and in doing so, that in itself can build your self-esteem. So it's something we can speak about for quite a long time, but that's just some of the tips I would say. And reach out for support. Reach out to others who have also been maybe identified as having dyslexia. So ADO is a support network that can put you in touch with others that you can just share your experiences with. And that's a great way of building your self-esteem, because you're now able to speak with someone who knows exactly what you're going through. Because it's not just children that are in support that we support. There are adults with dyslexia who have only just found out. So please do reach out for additional support from ADO. They can put you in touch with counsellors and with others who are also dyslexic.
Yeah. So which agencies are mandated to test for dyslexia in Ghana? So maybe we probably all know a bit. So maybe I can share the ones I know and then you guys can add to it. So we have the assessment center in Accra. I don't know outside of Accra what there is. I don't know if there's an assessment center in every city. We have Dyslexia Ghana, who are able to do assessments. We also have a new provision in Accra, Nature Sprout Academy, who have an assessor who is able to provide assessments and give you reports back. A lot of families also access. Oh, I'm actually forgotten the name of the provision. Can you guys? I'll let you guys speak about. Rosa, excellent, because I forgot. I actually it was on the tip of my tongue, and then I'm like, oh my gosh, I've forgotten what it's called. Where's the place called? Okay, cool. So Dyslexia Ghana, and that's it. Okay, Dyslexia Ghana, Nature Sprout Academy, Mission Pediatrics, and where else?
Kwalebu Hospital, Rich Hospital.
Kwalebu Hospital.
Yeah, and they could always contact us, and we will share different contacts with them.
Excellent, excellent. Because there's other places in Ghana. Obviously, not everything is in Accra, but I can't remember.
You guys have an interesting question here. You should look at.
Okay. Yeah. What should I do? Okay.
So
should we start from a counselling perspective? My child recently got assessed for a dyscalculia, but the school has no idea of learning difference. What should I do?
So I think I want to take it back to you being the advocate for your child. It's unfortunate that the school doesn't have any idea of learning differences, but this is why we're trying to raise awareness for parents, for educators. But in the first instance, you need to be the one that advocates for your child. So gather as much information as you can. You've got the report, you've got a supportive organization like ADO you can reach out to. And then you want to understand what support is it that you want or you need for your child. And then go and approach the school authorities to address that with them. They are there educating your child. What can they offer? Make demands, because maybe they've never had a child diagnosed with dyscalculia before. So now they too have to step up, learn, and see what they can do to offer support. But in the first instance, yes, do your research, gather your evidence, your reports and evidence, and speak up for your child.
And I just want to add to that and say, it's really important that you understand what is dyscalculia as a parent, that you understand what this term means and what it looks like in your child, because every child will be different. So it might be that you have 10 things that you need to look for and your child maybe has 7 of them. So you look out, have an understanding of what is dyscalculia. And once you understand what that is, then look and see, okay, what do I do that helps my child? What have I noticed about my child? Because it's really important that you are able to share information with the teachers, because you will see your child in a space where they are not scared, they're not anxious, they're not competing with other children. And so you will get to see the true them. No one will know your child as well as you do. So you have really vital information that you can give to the school that will help the school to help your child. And so be very clear with strategies. If you go and say, look, I was reading about dyscalculia and it says that if you do X, Y, and Z, that is really helpful. Can we try and do this? And I know sometimes teachers, we can be a bit difficult and we can be a bit prideful, and it's our classroom and this is how we do things and we don't do things like that. And hopefully you won't come across a teacher like that. But if you do, then it's really important to come alongside them and help them. Don't try and fight them. Come alongside and try and get them to understand where you're coming from. Sometimes it's a pride issue, and people might think that you're trying to undermine who they are as a teacher and their authority as a teacher. Make it very clear, I'm not trying to undermine you. I just want to see how we can help my child. So could we try this? And is it possible for us to look at this? And I did this at home and I found it was really helpful. Is it possible for this to happen at school? And try and use language like that so that you are working in partnership with the teacher, rather than being in conflict with them or them believing you to be in conflict with them. And then when your child sees that you guys are united in helping them, that will also really help to calm down your child's anxiety. Because for a long time, your child may well have felt that they are rubbish, they're inadequate, they can't do, they're failures. And so we need to try and repair some of that damage that inner voice would have been telling them, and the messages that they would have got because they weren't able to pick up things as quickly as their peers. So work in partnership with your child's teacher, research for yourself, understand for yourself, and give suggestions is what I would say to you. I don't know if you want to add to that, Barbara.
Justina, you've said it all, so I think we'll go with yes. Thank you.
The question is, can you list one or two strategies a parent can employ to have open and supportive conversations with his dyslexic 13-year-old, minimizing the risk of discouragement and self-pity? Do you want to take that, Barbara?
Sure. So I think from our first webinar, what I proposed was that anytime parents get the opportunity to be with their child, they should be able to have the conversation that is outside academics, trying to find out their interests, what happened in school. So, like, what did you do? Like, oh, you should start testing with your child, then you narrow it down to, okay, what is happening in class? Were you happy with whatever happened, the scores? How did it go? Do you need support? How is it going? With that, you have a general conversation, then you narrow it down to what is happening in the classroom. Your child will feel comfortable because it's not always about your teacher told me you didn't do well, this is the percentage you are getting. Your child should be able to know that, well, I can have other conversations with my mom, my social skills, what my mom has been able to identify, the unique skills that my mom has been able to praise me about. So we should start looking at the things we can praise our children about. Then we'll start talking about what is happening in the classroom environment. Then I think with that, every time we have something to talk about, let's set goals. Okay, so when you go to school, what do you hope to gain, or what is your target for today? What are some of the things that you are looking forward to when you go to school? Or what are the things that the subject that when the teacher comes to class, you call in? It gives you a fair idea for you to even advocate for your child and tell the teacher that, well, with the conversations I'm having with my child, this is some of the things that he's open up to. If you can find a way of delving deeper into it, and let's see how we can support our child, then it's good. So let's have conversations that should be all around, not always talking about how bad or what the teacher told me and you are disgracing me and I feel that the fees I'm paying, you are not doing well. Let's look at their strength, the champions, activities they've done, even encourage them to start a club, like all those things. With that, we are having a wider conversations with our children. So we can use that. We should praise more.
Okay, so the question is, why should schools take interest in this topic, and what will be the advantage for schools who train their staff? Do you want to take that one, Sam?
Yeah, sure. So why should schools take interest in this topic? Because first of all, we are all different, right? Yes, we're all maybe going to school to learn, to achieve a particular goal, but everyone is an individual. So as a school, you want to make sure you can offer that safe and encouraging environment where every individual feels that they've got an opportunity to learn. So I think it's like an essential part of a school's ethos to make sure that they can offer what it is each of the students they have in their school need to learn, to thrive, to come out with the best they can from what they've been able to put in. So it's essential for schools to take interest in these topics because all children are different. We all have different learning needs, learning abilities. So first of all, I think that answers why schools should take interest. What will be the advantages for schools who train their staff? Now, as an educator, you want to, your educators all have their own ethos as to why they're in education. What is the reason behind what they do? And I'm sure for many of us as educators, because we want to impart or impact the lives of others, the future generation. Now, how can we do that if we are not giving everybody the opportunity to learn? If we ourselves are not open, if we ourselves are not ready to learn, we cannot now pass that on to others. So as an educator, it is essential that we make ourselves open to learning new things, understanding. We too need that growth mindset that I spoke about in my part of the session, knowing that it's not just about the goal, it's about the small steps that you take each day, the persistent, giving you that room to safely make mistakes, knowing that it's all part of the learning process. So as educators and as school proprietors, we all need to take this subject very seriously and see what can we do to equip our staff to be the best educators that they can be, to impart most positively on our students. Justina, do you want to add anything?
100%. Yeah, definitely. I kind of want to take it from a school leadership point of view. And so morally and theoretically and ethically, it's really important that we include everyone, absolutely. But from a strategic point of view, it's actually very economically beneficial for schools to train their staff, all their staff, on how to support learning differences. What that will result in is that you will see an increase in the attainment of your students when you start to teach from a multisensory perspective. Once you're able to teach to the needs of your children, they will thrive because they're learning in an environment where they feel safe, where they're being supported, they are receiving stretch and challenge, and they are learning new things. So when you invest that into your team, you are telling your team, we believe in you, we believe in your capabilities, and we want you to be better. What you're telling your children is that we know you can do amazing work and we're going to do everything we can to help you. What you're telling your parents is we are invested in our school community. We are reinvesting in our school community. So your school fees are being used effectively to grow the school, to grow the population of the school, to grow the team, the staff. And we are going to be a school that is sought after because the community outside of the school will learn and know that actually, as for this school, they train their staff really well. Their teachers are able to teach in a variety of ways. They have a multi-sensory approach to learning and development, and their teachers do really, really well to bring the best out of their students. And that will mean your bottom line, your profit, your income generation will expand. It's a cost-effective way for you to grow and expand your business and also your brand. So I would really encourage all school leaders to invest in their staff team. Like, too often, staff are paying for their own training to upskill themselves. School leaders need to invest in their staff and tell them, show them tangibly that they believe in them and that they are equipping them to be able to teach for the children of the 21st century. The children that we are teaching and growing now and giving birth to now are not the children of 20, 30, 50 years ago. We cannot use the strategies that we used when we were in school for the children that we have now. We have to evolve our teaching. Our curriculum from 50 years ago is not effective. It's not what it is that is going to help our children. Our children now are born as tech natives. They are born within tech. Tech is part, even if you don't have access to the latest, these children are born with the ability to engage with tech in a way that us older generations do not know how. And we need to prepare them for the world that they're growing into as adults, not the world that we grew up in as children. And so therefore, when you invest in training for your staff, you invest into the future, you invest into the country, the GDP will be impacted because you're going to have innovators, entrepreneurs, business moguls. You're going to have the Richard Bransons of the world emanating from Botswana and Ghana and Ethiopia and Nigeria and Malawi and Zambia and all of these places, London. You're going to have the next Richard Bransons, the next big things that are going to be taking over the world because you've invested in your school community and in your staff. So it's really important you get them trained up. Thank you so much, guys. Adana, yes, learning and growth is continuous, 100%, 100%. It doesn't stop. It really doesn't stop. Thank you so much for joining us. I don't know about you guys, but I've absolutely loved this conversation. It has been so insightful. And thank you for your questions and your contributions in the chats on all of our platforms, all of you on YouTube, on Facebook, LinkedIn. We are so grateful to have had you with us this evening. And I just want to read this. So for Adana Williams says, you will be producing results and success at your school. Oh, where's it gone? As your school will become an inclusive centre for excellence when staff have training in awareness and understanding of supporting additional learning needs. 150, 200%. Absolutely. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Really, really, really insightful. And so, ladies and gentlemen, we've come to the end. We've come to the end. We are almost at the end of Dyslexia Awareness Month, October 2024. Thank you so much for celebrating all things dyslexia, all people who are dyslexic, and all related learning differences. Thank you for celebrating them with us this month. It doesn't end on Thursday, on the 31st, because we don't stop being dyslexic on the 31st of December, and our children don't stop being dyslexic on the 31st of December. It is all year round. Let us continue to uplift and to celebrate them. And I'm going to give the closing words to our executive director and our guru, and our Shiro. I'll hand it over to Rosalind. Thank you so much, guys.
I'm not supposed to be talking, but oh, this was so enriching. You know, I learned so much. I had my notebook here, taking notes myself, and I believe our parents and educators who tune in have taken a lot away. What I hope is that this information does not sit with just one person who just watch from wherever you are, but you share this information along, and it will be on our platforms, YouTube, LinkedIn, and Facebook forever. So for those of you who are asking for the slides are embedded in the videos. So please always reference to it, share it. There's a lot happening at the Africa Dyslexia Organization. We have a lot of initiatives. Our latest one is we are in search for brilliant dyslexics and neurodivergents around the continent of Africa. We want to know where they are, being it if they are young dyslexics or young neurodivergents. Of course, we want to hear about everybody because representation matters. We want to follow your journey so that we see in the next 10 years, 20 years to come, our I want to say Richard Branson's and the Albert Einsteins, but Africa, our own, who will even be more than the names you hear about. So we're looking for you and sending for us. Please, we have a lot of initiatives coming up, and the only way for you to know about it is to follow us on our social media platforms. You could also subscribe to our newsletter. If you go on our website, you can put in your email address, and whatever we are doing, you will be part of it to know, and encourage people to tune in. These are information that you will pay for somewhere else, but we bring it for you for free. The best you can do is be able to soak in those words so you can support your child, or you can support a friend, or you can support a student. We are always here for you. Leaders, thank you so much for your time. I know Dyslexia Awareness Month has been so busy for you. You wake up, you're working on your presentations, and I know the amount of work you have put in, and ADO cannot even afford to pay you guys. But you are always here to show your face and to deliver. And for this, we say God bless you and I keep saying this, for every child that this message you have shared is going to impact their lives. May the blessings that comes along unfold for you and your family. That is the best wishes I give to you. That God bless you, and we will bring our audience a new content very soon, so they should watch out for us. These are counselors who are available for you. If your family needs support services, you need somebody to speak to your child, or you need somebody to speak to you as a family to know how to navigate the situation, you can reach out to Samantha, you can reach out to Barbara, you can reach out to Justina. If you can't find any of them, just reach out to the Africa Dyslexia Organization and mention one of them, their name. Or even if you don't know, we will put you in contact with all of them. They are known as the ADO Inclusion Team, and they are very well looking forward to help you navigate through this journey. So don't feel alone. Remember, we are here with you. Ladies, what are your departing words? Since this is the end of our series for Dyslexia Awareness Month, each of you should give your departing words and we'll be out of here. Thank you.
Okay, thank you so much, Rosalind. Thank you to the rest of my fellow inclusion team. And as Justina said, it doesn't end on the 31st of this month. It's all year round. We are here to support you, to share awareness, and we encourage you to just reach out when you need to and share this YouTube video when you go online with others who can also benefit from it. I'm very happy to be part of this inclusion team, and no doubt you'll see us not too far away with some more content, like Rosalind said. So thank you and good night, everybody.
So I would say that it doesn't end here. We should continue role playing. Whilst we're at home with our children, we should be able to have sessions with them as if they are outside. We should be able to have sessions that they will be able to say, okay, if you find yourself in this situation, how are you going to overcome it? So we become more advocates, and out there, people will be able to understand what dyslexic is, and we can be the ones to tell them that it's not a disease, you shouldn't look down upon us, but this is what we are going through. And we also have our unique strength and we have our unique talent, so they should watch out for us and we'll do great things. Thank you very much.
Thank you. I want to do a call to action and just say to anyone who's been watching this, who thinks they might be dyslexic, or who has a child who thinks they may be dyslexic or neurodivergent, do not be afraid. Go and seek the answers, because once you have the information, you are empowered to then get the support that you need. And you don't have to share with anyone that you've had that assessment if you don't want to. But what it will do, it will make you and help you to know what help you need and where to get the help from. So if nothing else has been achieved from this October awareness campaign that we've been running and the continuous awareness that we're doing, let it be that you were bold enough to go and seek the answers, either for yourself or for your child or for a young person in your care. So don't be afraid. Your life will begin in a new way, because actually there is amazing talent and gifting that is to be celebrated and to be unearthed. So don't be afraid. Go and find out, and then seek the village that will help to really lift you up and celebrate you. That is the end.
All right.
Yeah.
Bye-bye, everyone.
To you, Roslyn. Good night. Good night. Thank you again so much. Good night.
Bye.